for the arrival of the Prime Minister. Please make welcome Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica. Let me also just invite us to remain standing. We go right to the playing of the national anthem. Thank you. You may be seated. Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Honorable Matthew Samuda, Member of Parliament and also Minister without Portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Mr. Philip Paulwell, CD, Member of Parliament for East Kingston and Port Royal, Ms. Lorraine Dobson, Councillor for Springfield and Port Royal. Also have Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Mrs. Arlene Williams. Members of the various Senator, Senator the Honorable Abka Fitz-Henley, Chairman of the National Water Commission's Board of Commissioners, and also members of the NWC Board, Acting President of the National Water Commission, Mr. Kevin Carr. I'm still going in, ladies and gentlemen. Yes? I see Miss Malcolm, Lloyd Malcolm from the Urban Development Corporation, Mr. Robert Gordon of the Methodist Church, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, members of the National Water Commission team, members of the parent ministry, Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, members of the OPM, and of course, members of the media. Have I left anybody out? Of course, quite a bit. Residents of Port Royal. Good morning and good afternoon. I say good morning because some of you have been here from morning, and I thank you for waiting with us. But we have started, and I want to welcome you, not with the official welcome, but just to acknowledge your attendance here at the commissioning ceremony for the Port Royal Pipeline Project, which, as you will hear a little bit further on, really incorporates several phases. We're happy to see you, and I'm looking forward to us sharing in a very meaningful program as we go along. Join me now to ask, as we invite Mr. Robert Gordon, Justice of the Peace, to bring the official prayers, and we get right into our program today.
Good morning, good afternoon, all. Let us pray. For the beauty of the earth, for the beauty of the skies, for the love which from our birth over and around us lies. Gracious God, to thee we raise this our sacrifice of praise. Father, we thank you for this beautiful day, for all your goodness, mercies, and blessings of the past year 2024, and for all the impending blessings of this new year 2025. We especially thank you this morning, Father, for the successful completion and commissioning of the Port Royal Pipeline Project. And Lord, while we appreciate and thank all those responsible for the provision of the system, we pray that the beneficiaries, our community of Port Royal, will endeavor to play their part in enhancing the sustainability of the project. Bless all of us this morning, all of us gathered here this day, and for this joyful occasion. We say to God be the glory as we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
And let everybody that is able to say, Amen. Amen. You guys would have noted, which is very scriptural, when it says, cast the vision and write it down. And so the gentleman was kind enough to take the prayers to us, and lest he slips on any of the special mentions, it was there in writing. Can we say amen again? We welcome now to the podium Mr. Michael Shaw, Chairman for the NWC Board of Commissioners.
Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Honorable Matthew Samuda, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Mr. Philip Caldwell, who is a Member of Parliament for Kingston East and Port Royal. I have not seen the Mayor, but the councillors, other distinguished guests, NWC staff, Board of Commissioners, media folks, and most importantly, the members of the Port Royal community. I say good morning, good afternoon, welcome, and Happy New Year to all. You know, Port Royal was always known all over the world for dangerous stuff. Pirates, sunken treasures, magnificent ships, excitement around a place like this, and lots of drinking of rum. But we want to move it from a little too much drinking of rum to drinking of pure quality water that comes from NWC. In reality, Port Royal is for many of us a simple, quiet town that breeds real quality folks. It is therefore my pleasure today to represent the National Water Commission as we join the Prime Minister and the rest of the party here today in announcing this major step towards providing that support, which is water, which is life. Phase 1 to 3 has already been completed with installation of new pipes leading to the community and facility upgrades. Now in the final 2 phases to come, we are moving into work involving sewer systems, upgrading of wastewater tanks, relief station, as well as servicing and upgrading distribution pipes in your community. Now, the Port Royal Pipeline project represents more than just 933 million investment in infrastructure. It embodies the National Water Commission commitment to sustainable development and improvement of quality of life for the residents of Port Royal. At the end of it all, what it means is that you will have quality water, sewage service, which improves lives and productivity. I extend our deepest gratitude to the community of Port Royal for the trust and patience you extended to us so far. Our gratitude to the Honorable Matthew Samuda for his steadfastness in ensuring that this came to a reality. To the Most Honorable Prime Minister, we say a special thank you to our partners, to the contractors, to the hard-working team of the National Water Commission as we continue to bear out our commitment for this transformation in Port Royal, water and sewage. As I close, I want to say that while this initiative is integral to preserving Port Royal's unique heritage and rich culture, yes, the era of pirates and so on is now a thing of the past. We are moving to greater heights, and as such, this initiative is vital to the infrastructure of the community and well-deserved so. So each of you can have a foundation needed for future growth and prosperity. That is our job at NWC. Serving you is all we do. And I would dare say, what a wonderful occasion. I mean, wonderful occasion. When we bring you good water, portable water, quality water to the citizens of Port Royal. I would say when we were here the last time, we commissioned the starting of it. And now I'm saying to you, promise made, promise kept. God bless you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And, you know, Chairman mentioned a little bit of the history of Port Royal. And perhaps back then it was persons coming to this very famous city for the hustle. Not true? It's to make a money. Perhaps you get shanghaied in the middle of it, but that was also always a part of the game. But now, when we say we're taking a little drive over to Port Royal, beg your pardon, it's to get away from the hustle. And I think it's a good stop today. Am I right? All right, here we go. So perhaps who can best tell us a little bit about Port Royal is the next person on my program, and hopefully yours too. He is the Member of Parliament for East Kingston, and guess what? Port Royal. Please make welcome Mr. Philip Paulwell, CD.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I greet you. I greet Most Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Holness, my friend Matthew Samuda, Senator Abka, Councillor Lorraine Dobson. There are so many persons here from the NWC. I greet the Chairman and other members. I greet the Permanent Secretary who is here. And of course, I greet the citizens and residents of Port Royal. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Yes, we are a friendly city. In fact, Prime Minister, you know that Port Royal is the city in the Caribbean which is the most peaceful, no crime, and we want to keep it that way. And as I say that, I want to commend Superintendent Tommy Lee Chambers, who has been with us for a number of years. Before she moved up to superintendent, and now having been assigned to East Kingston just prior to this, to commend her, to congratulate her on her appointment. She's going to be the lady in charge. Is it Area 4? Area 5. Area 5. So can we commend Tommy Lee? And Prime Minister, I hope you'll forgive me, but I want to recognize the presence of the JLP candidate for East Kingston and Port Royal, Bishop Burnett, who is here with me. Yesterday was his birthday, so we want to wish him all the best. That's how we live in these places, isn't it? And I tell you, Bishop Burnett will tell you that probably I'm the only MP that shared my Christmas program with the JLP candidate. And we work very well together. He prays for me all the time. I am delighted to be here today. The Prime Minister will recall some years ago when in his closing budget debate he mentioned about the cruise shipping pier for Port Royal. And apart from getting my attention and support for the pier, he knows I was very concerned. And I expressed my concern about the level of consultation. And he promised me that I'll be in touch with the chairman, the president of the Port Authority. And the very next day, Professor Gordon Shirley called me and Councillor Lorraine to a meeting at the Port Authority. And we expressed what our concerns were. We felt that as good as it is now, there are certain prerequisites to the unfolding of a cruise shipping pier, and that we were adamant that certain things needed to be put in place. And I really want to commend Professor Shirley, because he was able to summon the entire team, not only of the Port Authority, NWC, the TPD, you name it. We went into a meeting and they were all present. And we expressed the concerns and we got certain commitments. And I want to say that in relation to the commitment to ensure that there's adequate water supply in Port Royal, the Port Authority has delivered. And I want to commend them for that and to commend the other things that are emerging. I know that we have not yet solved the sewage problem, but the chairman of the Water Commission has just mentioned that this will be a necessary extension to this project. And I'm also aware that some of the other issues that we face, the JPSCO, that has been by and large resolved. So we are grateful, we are thankful. And of course, in these things, especially when the Prime Minister is present, you also have to say some other words. So, Prime Minister, let me say, recently we had another discussion with the Port Authority. And we decided to share a vision that we've had, but it has developed, as to now that we have this infrastructure in place, now that we are seeing the development of the cruise shipping pier, what do we need to galvanize all of this development and for the wider community to benefit? And we presented him with a vision of the harbour, the Kingston Harbour, as a resource that we are failing as a country to realize the full potential. You know, on New Year's Eve, while the Prime Minister was downtown, I and a few friends went on the harbour to watch the fireworks. And it was a most amazing attraction from the harbour side. But also, I lamented that there were just a few vessels in the world's 7th largest harbour. This place should be teeming with activity right around the clock, especially after dark when you can do cruising, you can do a whole host of other things. So we presented to the Port Authority areas along the way from downtown to Port Royal, where you can have, in addition to the Royal Yacht Club, other facilities where small craft, pleasure craft, can be parked, can be repaired, and so on and so forth. And then we have to finish this development in Port Royal, that sunken city, that we know if it ever gets on the front page, there will be nothing in the world that could rival it. Recently, I went to Hawaii, and they had this submarine that went down 100 feet, and you saw some things. Nothing that could compare to Port Royal's sunken city. And I think the time now to develop the sunken city is right. And I really want to urge that that be placed on the agenda. You know, Prime Minister, I was very pleased when you were at another place in East Kingston last week, you mentioned Windward Road, and that you are going to make sure that Windward Road is as smooth as the airport road. So can we commend that as a plan to be done? And if the Prime Minister is coming to do that, I shall be there. Finally, Prime Minister, you would have heard my lament every year in Parliament about Harbour Drive, that mosaic project that ran into difficulty, that has caused flooding for people who live on that road, which straddles East Kingston and Port Royal, and another place that you're familiar with, East Rural St. Andrew. And I really believe that it is time that the commitment that was given by the former Minister of Works be dealt with to regularize that situation, to improve the drainage, and to alleviate the danger that exists now whenever there is rainfall. So I really want to commend that to you as we acknowledge today the significant function as we, on behalf of the residents of Port Royal, say thanks for this wonderful project that will ensure that we have high, good quality water and then the sewage to follow. Thank you very much. All the best.
We thank the Member of Parliament for those kind words, right? My audience is getting a little quiet on me now, but guys, there is an assurance, you know. When I said we were coming to Port Royal for a quick stop, I meant it. So if you look on your program, you recognize that we are in the second half of said program. Am I right? I see some nods now. So let us put our hands together as we now welcome for his greetings the Honorable Matthew Samuda, Member of Parliament and also Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. Please make him welcome.
Thank you, Master of Ceremonies, Delano Williams. Allow me to acknowledge the Most Honorable Dr. Andrew Holness, and of course, Member of Parliament for the area, Philip Paulwell. I see our Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Arlene Williams, and of course, Chairman of the Board of the Water Commission, Mr. Michael Shaw, along with other board members. Of course, Acting President Kevin Carr and his senior team, and of course, the senior team of the ministry. Allow me to also acknowledge colleague and friend, Senator Abka Fitzhenley. Good afternoon, everyone, and Happy New Year. Good afternoon, everyone, and Happy New Year. Thank you. In 2023, we were at this location for the groundbreaking ceremony for the Port Royal Pipeline Replacement Project. Today, we gather here with great pride and anticipation to commission the new pipelines officially. This is evidence, as the chairman said, of a waterific day, because it is representative of a promise made and a promise kept. It marks a significant milestone in our ongoing journey to improve the lives of our citizens, fortify our infrastructure, and secure a sustainable future for our communities. With its rich history and vibrant community, Port Royal holds a special place in Jamaica's cultural and economic fabric. However, for years, the aged cast iron pipelines that served this area presented persistent challenges, frequent breaks, unreliable water supply, and environmental risks hindering the growth and development of this unique township. I can tell you also, Prime Minister, it provided reason for persons like Miss Anne from Port Royal to call the office almost weekly to complain. So it is with great pride that we're able to say today that this issue is indeed at an end. Now, that issue is to be contemplated against the backdrop that there is work to be done in the township of Port Royal and not just the main line which feeds this township. And we acknowledge that work in the same way we acknowledge the work that is to come on our sewage system, which will indeed serve the 2,500 residents and de-risk future investment, which I know the Prime Minister has on his agenda for Port Royal. But what is this project? This project is the replacement of 8.6 kilometers of fragile pipelines with modern, durable, high-density polyethylene HDPE pipes. This upgrade was not just about changing infrastructure, it was about improving the quality of life. It represents the closure of phase 2 of this project, which saw $533 million, Prime Minister, invested in the people of Port Royal, in the people of Harbour View, and in the people of Shooters Hill. You see, sometimes people don't recognize that water is indeed clear and water goes across constituency lines, Prime Minister. So this line actually started running from the source at, forgetting the name, Long Mountain Source, and comes all the way into Port Royal. So it is a massive investment in the present and in the future of this beautiful town. But it represents a continuation of significant investment that is being made in the Kingston and St. Andrew metropolitan area. And Councillor, I saw a recent note from His Worship the Mayor, and I think it's important that those who are here and those who will listen on the radio stations which are present and certainly see the news coverage later, that they understand exactly where we are in Kingston and St. Andrew and where we're not. The Mayor expressed some concerns to me about Kingston and St. Andrew's water supply, and I think it's important to advise him and to advise the country, and indeed all the residents of Kingston and St. Andrew and its environs, exactly where we are, where we're not, but where we will be in short order. The first contemplation is that in 2015, we required 55 million gallons of water in Kingston and St. Andrew to service your daily needs. 55 million gallons. Work with me on the math. Today, you require 37 million gallons per day. 37 million gallons per day. So 17 million gallons saved because of the work and investment of this government into the water network of Kingston and St. Andrew. So, Prime Minister, when you contemplate all of the high-rises, all of the development, all of the significant investment that has gone into Kingston and St. Andrew, we're using significantly less water. In fact, we have moved from what we call non-revenue water which is leaked or stolen, from being at 70 to 72% to being at approximately 38% in Kingston and St. Andrew. So what that means is that Kingston and St. Andrew is significantly more water resilient. It is significantly closer to being able to supply every single citizen with water in excess of 23 hours a day, which is the global standard for best practice. So we've already moved a very far way, but we're not finished yet. Resilience is an interesting topic, and I mentioned water resilience. It's important when we consider that resilience that we understand that in 2022, in February, in the worst month, the worst drought that Kingston and St. Andrew has ever experienced, because of the work we were done, we were short 12 million gallons per day, MP. We will start the second phase, because the first phase with all of the site preparation and all of the designs and all of the equipment that needs to be ordered is finished. We will start the second phase this month with heavy construction of the content production facility, which is a Rio Cobra water treatment plant, having had the consortium sign their financial arrangements last month. Now that will provide to Kingston and St. Andrew and Portmore some 15 million gallons daily. So let's go back at the math. In the worst of our drought, in the worst of our worst drought, we were short 12 million gallons in the corporate area extending into Portmore. That water treatment plant will supply 15 million gallons daily in and out of drought. Correct, President? Now, that is a massive investment in the present and the future for the people of Portmore and Kingston and St. Andrew. And that needs to be understood. Now, that can't be the last investment. There are several components that need to ensure that whether you live at the tip of Port Royal or you live at the peak of Blue Mountain or you live at any of our towns in the hills or you live in any of our urban spaces, that you have water, because we have committed to our citizens that you'll have water. So investments in this area will not stop with the $533 million which we commissioned today. The next round of investments include some critical transmission mains. Some I know that would affect even the Prime Minister's constituency. Starting next month, we will we will start the work on the second phase of bringing to life those lines along the Washington Boulevard, which will move from Sandy Gully Bridge all the way up to Malines Road, Prime Minister. Now, this will significantly improve water delivery to constituencies like West Central St. Andrew, and indeed like Northwest St. Andrew, and will impact water delivery for 30,000 Jamaicans. And this will benefit from an investment of some $200 million as we bring that line up to speed, Prime Minister, for the drought, which we know starts in February. We will ensure that there is far greater level of resilience in that water supply. We expect to, over the next 2 years, commence construction and complete construction on a line from Ferry to Rock Pond. This will see an investment of over 1 billion Jamaican dollars, which will deal with communities such as Duane Park and all of those communities going up the left-hand side of the Washington Boulevard. 30,000 people, again, will benefit from those lines. Now, one that has completed procurement and we expect to start construction soon will indeed be the Forest Hills line. So that will deal with pretty much all of Forest Hills and Red Hills, which we know for anyone who has a family member living in Red Hills or lives in Red Hills themselves, Red Hills has had water challenges for all of my lifetime. This will be a major change in the water supply for all persons living in Red Hills. And Prime Minister, these are not investments that are to come. These are investments that are at varying stages of being programmed, varying stages of implementation. So we know the lines have been spoken about for 10 years. We know the lines for Port Royal were spoken about for decades. Well, we are here to say to citizens of Port Royal, Kingston and St. Andrew, we're not just speaking at this point. We're at the stage of implementation, and though we have already brought down the water usage and significantly improved your water supply, we are now targeting resilience. We are now investing to ensure that Portmore, Kingston and St. Andrew, all the way through Bull Bay into Western St. Thomas politically, is water resilient. And we are nearing this space. We can see that within 2 to 3 years it is achievable with the investments that we are to make. Now, that doesn't mean that every single community would have all their issues dealt with. There is an issue with aging communities. Many of your old schemes built in the 60s and 70s have not had their pipes upgraded. There are 2 programs I wish to bring to your attention. One, many of those communities also have road degradation, which the Prime Minister is addressing through the Spark program. As a component of the Spark program, 5 billion Jamaican dollars has been allocated for upgrade of pipe work within the communities along the roads that will be upgraded. The Water Commission has the list from NWA. We're coordinating very closely, and we're ensuring that before those roads are paved, we relay the pipes to make sure that the age-old comment of road pave and NWC dig up is a thing of the past. That's the first one. We've identified the roads and we're testing the pipelines to see which ones need to be changed as a matter of priority. The other element is that we have already completed the first phase of our procurement for a national non-revenue water partner. Now, I mentioned the fact that we'd done non-revenue water work in Kingston and we'd brought our water usage from 55 million gallons down to 37 million gallons. We are going to do the same nationally. And this will involve significant upgrades of our distribution network right across the country. Now, that will be a 10-year program. But we've completed the pre-qualification of our bidders, and we are going through our international tender procedures to ensure we are able to conclude the transaction period and get started. That will significantly benefit communities like Denham Town, which have significant leakage, communities like Arnett Gardens, where the pipes are aged and need to be changed. But we're doing the work, and we can assure you that under this government, MP Paulwell, we will achieve water resilience for the corporate area. Now, it's not that I can't go into dozens and dozens and dozens of other projects that we will be bringing on stream over the next couple of months, Prime Minister. But we'll save the rest of the country for when we go to those commissioning ceremonies, because everybody deserves their pound of flesh. So, for instance, when I ask you next week, and I hope you're able to accommodate us to go and commission the system at Pepper for that community that has never had water, I hope you will be able to come with us, because we are doing this water sort of investment right across the length and breadth in every nook and cranny of Jamaica. But today is about the 2,500 residents of Port Royal. It is about the citizens of Harbour View and Shooters Hill who have also benefited. It is us saying to us that you can believe when we tell you we will invest, because you have the evidence right in front of your eyes, and most importantly, you have the water in your pipes. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's most fitting then that we make way for our keynote speaker and your Prime Minister, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness. Please make him welcome.
Thank you, everyone. Please resume your seats. Thank you, Master of Ceremony, for your masterful mastery of the ceremony so far. Allow me to specially acknowledge your Minister of Water, Senator the Honorable Matthew Samuda, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, and the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Mrs. Arlene Williams, very hard-working Permanent Secretary. Philip Paulwell did not acknowledge me as his friend. But we have been friends for a long time. We consider ourselves to be political batchmates. We came into the politics almost at the same time. Of course, we had different fates. But how are you, my dear? But we have remained very, very good friends. It's important to say this because sometimes the view of the country is that the politics is so caustic and toxic that it would appear that we are all enemies. And that is far, 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 far from the truth. I certainly don't carry enmity with me in politics, and I treat everyone not just professionally, but friendly. And I think it's important that that be said. But I also have to say, because I was a few days ago with MP Paulwell at another event launching another government project, and when I returned home and had an opportunity to check my phone, I saw several messages of persons complaining as to why it is that I am launching a major project such as the Spark project in MP Paulwell's constituency. Why couldn't it be one of the other, 48 or 49 constituencies? And I reflected upon that. And especially since I'm here today now doing another project, there might be a feeling that there is some special provisions for MP Paulwell. Far, far from it. It is all coincidental. But I will use this opportunity to make another point. That when it comes to the expenditure of public resources, we try desperately not to look at the politics of the expenditure. but rather to look at the benefit of the people. And right across Jamaica, you could close your eyes and just randomly pick an area, and that area would genuinely be in need. Whether it is for water, or road, or housing, or sewage, or something. Wherever you go in Jamaica, there is the need. So the selection of this constituency, it's purely based upon the technical advice, the professional advice, and where the project has actually reached the level of completion. So on the Spark program, it was purely technical. It was the road that was available, didn't require the laying of pipes, easy surface to be dealt with, close to where the contractor is already mobilized, purely technical. And for this project, the project is completed. So we are here to launch the completion ceremony of the project, to acknowledge that the government has made a significant investment, over 530 million Jamaican dollars, in putting in new water mains into the town of Port Royal. And I want to just specifically explain what we have done here. We have laid approximately 8.6 kilometers of modern, high-density polyethylene pipes. Now, it's very important that we have an appreciation for what this is. It is not that there were pipes in Port Royal, but those pipes were laid very close to the time of the major earthquake. I meant that as a joke. No, the point to be made is these pipes were laid maybe 60 to 70 years ago. And so they are old. But not just that, the diameter of the pipes that were laid, they were very small diameter pipes, so they couldn't carry the volume of water that is necessary. And having been laid for so long, the internal carriage area of the pipes would have become encrusted. And so the pipes themselves would have gotten smaller. So the people of Port Royal were literally suffering from aged infrastructure. And this aged infrastructure simply could not carry the volume of water. It couldn't take the pressure of the water, and they would break frequently. What we have done is to change the kind of pipe that we have put in place. So it's no longer the old metal pipes that could become rusted and encrusted. No. What we have laid now are high-density polyethylene pipes, which are very robust, a little bit more flexible, and they are designed to last much longer than the old metal pipes. And these pipes can take the pressure of the pumped water supply to the area. And they are of a larger capacity as well. So there will be more water for Port Royal. This was done at a cost of approximately 533 million Jamaican dollars, and over 2,000 residents of this area, not to mention the persons who visit here on a weekend and the possible cruise ship visitors. They will all have the convenience of potable water. So this is a major achievement that the government is marking by this ceremony. And I'm certain that the people of Port Royal are very happy, very, very happy to have this improved facility. Indeed, they mark it as an improvement in the quality of life that they experience. But let me quickly go to the end of my presentation, where I have a list of projects that Minister Samuda said he would spare you. He would spare you the reading into the record of them. But I believe it is important for us to note these projects because, you know, there is a sense sometimes that when I go around the country and I do these ceremonies, whether it is handing over houses or breaking ground or marking the completion, there are persons who are watching on the television and on social media, and they're saying to themselves, when will it be my turn? You know, they say, Prime Minister, I see you in Port Royal, I see you over in Harbour Heights, and I see you all over, but when is it my time, my turn in my community? Ultimately, you know, our politics comes down to what have you done for me in my community lately? And especially in this time, and you know what time I'm talking about. Everyone wants to be able to identify what has been done for me. Now, there are those who would look at this and say, you know, this is incredibly selfish and a threat to our democracy if politics is only going to be decided on the basis of what is done for me. Then what happens to the national good? But you know what? It is the nature of democracy. And it is not just Jamaican democracy. It is the nature of the electorate. And because at the end of the day, you know, you feel the pain. And this issue of the national good, sometimes it's very difficult to identify the national good with your own personal struggles and suffering. And so governments have to be very sensitive in balancing as we pursue what is in the national interest and what is in the national good. We also have to acknowledge that people have to live now. And as we have been very good as a government in pursuing the national good, we have also been very good as a government in just trying to balance the daily lives of citizens. Please feel free. It is the reality of government. It is, and I acknowledge that. But governments have to do it very carefully. Because, and if I were to use this community as an example, I used to come here quite regularly when I had fishing as a hobby. And, you know, I would stop and I would have fish, and some of the fish that I caught, they would be prepared here. And some of the conversations were very interesting because, you know, it's not just water that was a challenge. Housing is a big challenge here. Major, major challenge. You know, and I could go on and on. I know the area very well. I know what the challenges are here. But that we have spent $533 million here. The residents who are the beneficiary of that, they are not going to contemplate where else we didn't spend the $533 million. In other words, the residents who benefit from the opportunity are not going to consider the cost to others of the opportunity to spend the money here. That's just the nature of the politics, right? So the job of the government is, when we are spending the resources to meet your individual and personal need, we also have to balance what does it cost for others whose needs are not met. Because that $533 million could have been spent in a community northeast Manchester. It could have been spent in my constituency, all over Jamaica. So the role of the government, my friends, is to try as best as possible to meet the needs of the people, their individual needs, what they see in front of them, but also to spend in such a way that in the expenditure, we increase the capacity and capability of the government to gain even further revenue to meet the needs of those persons who did not benefit from the expenditure that we made here. So we have to be very strategic. So you might be asking the question then, why Port Royal? Why did we spend it here? Clearly there is a need, but Port Royal is also very strategic. Very strategic. Very special, I agree. Very special. But Port Royal is also very strategic. So a few years ago, when we were looking at how do we increase the productivity of the country, or put it another way, how do we create new industries for growth, Port Royal was high on the agenda because you have certain heritage assets here that have been for decades, maybe centuries, underutilized, but if properly developed, could provide the revenues that would not only develop Port Royal, but develop the wider Jamaica. But to get to that point, we have to make certain investments in Port Royal. And one of the critical investments to be made was to put in place the facility for docking cruise ships. We have made that investment. The second investment was to put in place some facilities to receive the cruise ship visitors when they come. And we have put in place the new pier and customs facilities there. It's a lovely facility. We have built a new museum and restaurant, which I will be back here to open shortly. Yes. And we have started to do some improvements of the sidewalk and various little things within the town. Investment. And then now, we have made this massive investment again in the water. We have one more major investment to do, which is on way already, and that is in the sewage. We have actually built the sewage plant. Now, we have to lay the pipes to connect the homes and the facilities to that treatment plant. And then, another major investment to come, which is to give you a beautiful road from the roundabout straight into the town. Now, all of this investment that is coming here, it is to create Port Royal as a new destination, not just for tourists to come, but to enhance what is already the case. Port Royal is the destination for people in Kingston and St. Andrew. On the weekends, the place is packed. It is an entertainment and festival destination. But to be able to have that to the extent where it adds significantly to our GDP, you will hear this term used, the gross domestic product. We have to make these significant investments. So you're going to see now, once we put in the sewage and fix the road, there's already a hotel here, which I gather is doing quite well. It's the Excelsior. You're going to see more hotels come. You're going to see the restaurants improve. And we are going to make the investments, not to displace the people who are here, who have built an industry, a name, and a brand, but to support them further in improving and expanding their product, so that when we talk about Port Royal as a destination now, this is going to be the place where people will choose to come and have their festivals and concerts, where cruise ships will come to explore the rich history that is here in your various museums. Even cemeteries are a place where people come to visit. We have such wealth of historical sites that we can develop. So Port Royal is going to become a new economic hub for Kingston. It will add to our GDP. It will create revenues which will more than pay back for the over $2 billion worth of investment that we have made when you add up everything together. And it will last us, it will give us a 20, 30, 40-year run of revenues from which we now can use to give water to people in other areas of Jamaica. So that is the strategy of the government. So I want you to, as persons listening to me speak and saying, well, how Port Royal get and we don't get. You are going to get, my friend. And the government has been wise in how we spend. We are spending in a fiscally responsible way, in a sustainable way, in a strategic way. And no one can say that the investment in Port Royal will not yield results for the country. But having said that, I wanted to commend the NWC for being good stewards of the public resources and being able to make these kinds of investment. And I commend them because the history of the NWC is that they have not been able to make these kinds of investment in a sustained way. But more than that, they have not been able to make these kinds of investments without government support or borrowing. I want to emphasize that. Everybody wants the government to do everything, which is right. That's why you have governments. You put them there and you give them the authority to be able to treat with the situations that you have. But the responsibility of the citizen and the electorate does not stop there. How does the government provide for you? There are some people who really don't care as long as it is provided. But we have seen, and it has become a destructive element of our history, that if you provide development through borrowing, you, one, limit the potential of the development, not just in the long term, but in the short term, and you end up paying more for the development than you would have. And worst of all, you end up burdening future generations to pay for your consumption today. This government is committed to develop Jamaica without depending on borrowing. That commitment depends on a wise electorate. That commitment depends on a wise electorate. Jamaica can easily go back to the point where we are an indebted country. And these facilities that we are now launching and opening and showing off about, they stop. In fact, the reason why we are in the position we are in is because we tried to develop by borrowing. We must now turn the leaf in that book of our history and go to a new chapter where we develop by growing. And so the investment in Port Royal is that strategy, to develop by growing. That is what we're doing. The NWC has followed that policy mandate. And the growing requires effective management of public resources. And the NWC has improved its management significantly, and I want to commend the Board of Governors and the management of the NWC. They still have a way to go, but we must acknowledge when progress has been made. The NWC has not come to the government for any fiscal support for a little while. I know they had some challenges with the new remuneration package, and during COVID, you may have had to come for some support, but not because of bad management and burial. Not because of bad management. The economists would say exogenous shocks, things outside of your control. But even then, we have the Lower Jackshill Water Supply Project, which serves Harriman, Tavistock, Whitcomb, Mountain Spring, and Sunset Avenue. And that is in progress. We are expecting to complete that by April 2025. That is an investment of 350 million Jamaican dollars, another community that is benefiting. But we didn't borrow to do this. This is being done out of the NWC's revenues. And I want to emphasize that. In St. Anne, in the St. Anne's Bay to Landover pipeline, we are making good progress. In fact, we are well advanced. We expect to complete that in May 2025, and that's $550 million worth of expenditure. That one is another strategic investment, because that pipeline is going to open up great opportunities for housing along that corridor, meaning more revenues coming in to the government. Not more taxes now, but more revenues from the existing tax base that we can spend on other communities. See the strategy? You're investing to grow the economy, to increase revenue so we can spend on your individual needs. This is out of the NWC's revenues. We have Rosemount, Camelot, and Discovery Bay in St. Anne. I'm wondering why St. Anne is coming up so often. Hotels. Okay, good. And December, this we expect to be finished December this year. That's $350 million, again out of the NWC's revenues. Plumbago, Orchid Path, sewer extension works in Mona, and I see that is going on. We expect it to complete that in March 2025, $75 million out of the NWC's revenues. That is not from government support through any taxes or from any borrowing. That's strictly from the good management of the NWC to generate the revenues to make these investments. And we have some upcoming water supply projects in Eastern St. Mary. We're going to make an investment there in the St. Mary water supply project. That's $600 million. In Port Morant, Springfield, the Stanton water supply in St. Thomas, that's an investment of $550 million. I believe the one in St. Mary is already complete, or almost complete. In Juno Crescent, that's in Clarendon, in Maypen, we are going to make an investment there, which I believe it has started, $375 million. Again, all of this is out of the NWC's revenue. In Grovestown to Cross Keys Pipeline in South Manchester, $75 million out of the NWC's revenues. From Wakefield to Bunkers Hill in Trelawney, $120 million. I believe that project is ongoing. And then we have the Montgomery Corner to National Hero Circus Pipeline via Morosco Road, $400 million. That should start this year. Ferry to Rock Pond Water Supply in Forest Hill, you mentioned that. That's a $1 billion project. And I know the people up in Red Hills and Forest Hill and all of those areas who have been complaining all along about their water supply, they'll be very happy to hear that this project, the Minister is advising me that the procurement is finished, so the next stage is contracting and then execution. And then another important one that needs to be done, Mona, Wellington Drive, Monroe Road, Olope Road, Retreat Avenue, Seymour Avenue. We're going to put in place a proper sewer system for that entire area. That is 1.4 billion Jamaican dollars out of the NWC's revenues. Not borrowing, not from government, not from your taxes, but just from the operations of the NWC. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have detained you long enough, and I believe that my point has been made to you, that you have a good government, a government that understands the delicate balance that has to be maintained with the national interest and with your personal interest. And it requires skillful, thoughtful government to be able to balance those needs, to deal with the needs of the future while addressing the needs of the current, and to address the needs of the current without in any way damaging the possibilities of the future. So, Madam Councillor, it's good to be in your area, and I'm sure that you, though we are on opposite sides, but I'm sure that the message, I see the smile on your face, and I'm sure that the message has resonated with you. God bless you all. Happy New Year. Peace, productivity, prosperity be yours, and victory be to all Jamaicans. God bless you, and thank you.
Put your hands together one more time for the Most Honorable Prime Minister. It's heartening to know, after hard years of work, that when you have been brought like for the students now, their academic reports are being brought to the forefront. Not true? And it's a new term, and between the parents and the teachers, there's a lot of scrutiny of that report. And to hear the Prime Minister was able to look at the report of the people in the water school and to say we've not only passed in Port Royal, but we're doing well in the other subject areas as well. I think we can put our hands together for the National Water Commission team. Prime Minister, we thank you, sir, for taking the time to share your profound words and updates with us. We also thank the Minister, Matthew Samuda, for his updates and the commitment to continuing to deliver on the needs of water supply, not just in Port Royal, right, guys? Because I know, let me say those who have a country where they go, where mommy or daddy or you've grown up somewhere else other than Kingston and Port Royal. Just put your hands up, man. There we go. So every interest that is brought forward here represents not just for Port Royal, but really it's a national interest that we have. And so we thank the Minister for sharing those updates. Thanks also to Chairman Shaw of the National Water Commission's Board and the team he represents, including our Acting President, Mr. Kevin Carr. I want to acknowledge Member of Parliament again for his words, and I know his wish list may have been longer, but he was kind enough to bring forth his big topics for today. To Madam PS, who joined us today from the Ministry of Economic Growth, to Senator Abka Fitz-Henley, to Councillor, to the MEG-JC team, to Mr. Robert Gordon, who brought prayers. And we want to just acknowledge the presence and the support that the Port Royal community on a whole gives us. Come on, put your hands together for them. We've never come here in the 2.5 years that we've been doing functions and have gotten any kind of hesitation when we make a request, whether it's for the site, for parking, or for the community's assistance. And we want to acknowledge that. And I think it's also on the back of what associations like the Port Royal Brotherhood would have done to help to build a community that understands kindness and paying it forward and building good community spirit. So we want to thank the Brotherhood as well for representing here today. A number of agencies and companies have shared in today's proceedings. The JCF, Ms. Chambers and her team were acknowledged. We didn't acknowledge earlier the Ashstrom Building Systems team, but I know you have seen their work. The Portmore community sirs have certainly felt the impact of the carrying capacity of those pipelines. So we can put our hands together for Ashstrom, please. The Port Authority of Jamaica, the UDC, who are partners with the NWC, my NWC colleagues, my MEGJC partners in agency, and of course, you who are varying fellow and support agencies. We want to thank you for making this event a very useful and successful one. The media is our best friend today. I'm sure a lot of you have trimmed, showered, and shaved to make sure that you are on point whenever the camera catches you at any angle. And so we want to thank them for turning out today and to giving us the kind of coverage that will make this event not just a memorable one for today, but also an historical one. So put your hands together for the media, please. And of course, you have been good as my audience, clapping when I say clap and coming when I say come on time. And now as we prepare ourselves to separate from this physical spot to where the act of commissioning will go, I'll give you some amount of liberty to either stay under the shade of the tent for those who know they can stay, and for those who will be a part of the commissioning, we will move up to the NWC, what the Port Royal community calls. I know, sir. I probably looked across the bay once too often. So where the Port Royal community calls the reservoir spot. Am I right? So we're going to move out in a little bit from now, but I want to thank everybody and the Port Royal community for allowing us to serve you as your premier water supply provider and your partner for many more years to come. On behalf of the management team of the NWC and the organizing committee for this function, I bid you adieu for now and thank you for allowing me to serve you. Take care, guys. So directions, if I to just refresh you, we will move from here along the sidewalk all the way up to beside the hotel. The NWC facility is at that location. We will do the act of commissioning there. For those who are already moving, we will see you there shortly. Those who cannot make it, the screens will be doing some streaming, so you can benefit from both. And refreshment when we are finished will be at the tent across the square. See you soon.
Residents of Port Royal, it's your turn. Get ready to experience a significant improvement in your water supply, as the National Water Commission is now upgrading the transmission main that serves your community. Under the Port Royal Potable Water Transmission Main Upgrade Project, the existing pipeline will be replaced so that you and those who use the Palisadoes Strip and the Port Royal Shipping Port would enjoy the benefits of reliable and consistent service.
The project commenced approximately 4 weeks now, and we're looking to complete within 4 months. Outside of the improved in reliability of service, this line will allow the NWC to increase the volume of water moved into the Port Royal area with the anticipation of future development.
This includes the planned development of the cruise ship terminal and associated attractions, as well as the upgrading of social infrastructure, including housing. Additionally, the recently completed works along Spanish Town Road will allow the transmission of water from St. Catherine to augment the Mona system, and this augmentation will benefit the eastern areas of the island, such as Harbour View. $300 or 12 inches of pipeline from the Norman Manley International Airport roundabout to the Port Royal pumping station. Sections of the current transmission main are laid along the Palisadoes coastline peninsula and sunken in the sand and or submerged in the coastal waters. Added to this is the fact that the transmission main is aged cast iron. Due to these factors, the transmission main is very fragile. It is susceptible to damage and difficult to locate to carry out speedy repairs. When the existing transmission main is replaced with high-density polyethylene pipes, there will be an overall improvement in service delivery because these new pipes are conducive to the environment.
The water table here is quite high. So what happens is that the trench that the pipeline is going to be placed in is going to be saturated with water, along with the fact that it's the mangrove, so there's some amount of salt in it. This pipeline was specifically designed to withstand the conditions along the Port Royal Main Road.
The pipe will be laid on the soft shoulder of the edge of the roadway. Sections of the pipeline are now being fused as part of the upgrading process. And as part of the overall management of the project, there is a traffic plan that is being enforced. Upgrading the NWC's pumping station to improve the water distribution to Port Royal and its environs is another major component of the project.
We will be upgrading the treatment facility, putting in resilience in terms of additional pumping units and also a standby generator in case there is a power outage. So in terms of this aspect of the project, the cost of this project is approximately $100 million.
Meanwhile, residents were not left out of the loop.
We've sensitized the public in this area. We had a town meeting. Everybody was aware of what's going to be happening, and they actually want it to happen.
This is a multi-million-dollar investment, and because every drop counts, residents are being reminded to honor their obligation.
And so we expect that persons will be partnering.
Yeah, she can bottle this water.
Don't give any idea.
Yeah, well, take a rub out, man. That's all right. You know it.
Coming in here? Can come in here, sir?
I can't go in there. You make it stop.
Clear the area, please.
Good. Yeah, I couldn't.
Sorry, can you project the voice a little bit more?
What we have here is the new MCC rooms where we have two new MCCs for the two.
So what are MCCs?
Motor control.
So before we start, so look at the cameras and say, you know, I'm the superstar. My name is so and so.
My name is Sean. I'm representing the M&E team for this aspect.
Norman. I am Sean, not representing the mechanical and this and that and whatever. M&E, nobody knows that.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sean Lam, representing the engineering department, spearheaded this aspect of the project, phase 2. Cost of this project is approximately $100 million. What we did in this phase, we had to construct a temporary bypass pumping unit so that we could take the reservoir out of operation for rehabilitation works. The M&E works, mechanical electrical works include installation of 2 new pumping units, duty and standby, along with two new motor control sensors, along with a new generator in case there's a public power supply outage and upgrading of the power supply.
Very interesting. You know, I'm sure the public knows that for the provision of water there has to be pumping, and so there is an entire electrical system in place to keep the pumps running. But I've never seen a system like this. So please tell me, what is this looking almost like a server?
So we have two drives. And using a variable frequency.
No, but where we are is fine. You just want
a variable frequency drive for the two. We have a variable frequency drive for this one.
What does this one?
To operate the pumping.
So this keeps the electricity stable to the pump. So that if you have fluctuations, so this basically keeps the current clean and stable. Okay. And it's automatic, so if there is, this is like a big surge protector. So it chips out if there are problems.
Yes, and it falls on the power supply system to protect the motor.
So it protects the pump. Excellent. And do you have this in all your pump houses, or this is new technology you're deploying?
Well, we're rolling it out across.
So it's not in all your pump houses, but eventually you have it. So Port Royal has probably one of your most modern facilities. Excellent.
Here is a little bit of history.
This was the site of the original works.
So these are storage here.
These are storage
tanks. Reservoir.
Yes,
store water here.
Right. So during the works, these tanks were closed off. We went inside, cleaned them, rehabilitated them. And while this work was going on, that single tank there was the bypass system. to facilitate these works.
I noticed that you have covered the tanks.
Yes.
Why?
Water quality. So it
Water
requires
quality.
that once the water is treated, you cover it.
You cover it.
Right.
And that is also to prevent evaporation. All right. When you say Ticknam Park, you mean the police academy, yes? Yes, that's a general problem with persons who have worked in temporary positions. The government is trying to resolve it. Yes, I'm